in the 1990s in Africa was this sort of like new wave of democratization and bringing to the forefront the crucial need to respect not just territorial integrity, but the human rights of the people. So the focus was no more just on state security, but it was about human security. And this human security and democratization process saw the leaders and the people of Africa coming together and establishing what was to become known as the African Union. And the concept of the African Union, unlike the OAU, whose concept was non-interference by and large, was that it was not okay for member states to be non-indifferent, i.e. to turn a blind eye to abuses that were going on in your neighbor's backyard. So in essence, the African Union was meant to usher in a period where Africans would develop African solutions to African problems. They would not just be indifferent. They would ultimately intervene in instances of crisis, in instances of food insecurity, in instances of instability in their neighbors, because we were no more going to be indifferent to the plight of our brothers and sisters. And that African solidarity, or rather solidarity of leaders, would not trump the crucial importance of ensuring that African leaders, African countries would be non-indifferent. Since the formation of the African Union, there have been a number of great achievements, especially within the peace and security field, where the African Union has intervened to stop conflict in 18 countries and around 50 conflicts since its formation. In terms of economic development, attempts to create an African continental free trade area where Africans can begin to trade amongst each other. When you look at how Africans trade with each other, it only accounts for 15% of trade. We trade more with people outside of Africa. So that shows that there's huge opportunity if we can bash down barriers and tariffs and duties, that Africans, through the creation of infrastructure that moves and facilitates this kind of trade, can see Africa trading with itself more. And certainly there are programs like the Presidential Infrastructure Development Program that is intended to create strategic and bulk infrastructure that can be the facilitator of this trade. There are ideas also of the Comprehensive African Agricultural Development Program that talks of the crucial importance of agriculture as one of the sectors that can both create jobs but also address the issue of food insecurity in Africa. When we reflect on the progress of the African Union, one thing becomes apparent, that they lack shared and common values around what it is to be part of the African Union. So for example, is the African Union really supportive of democratic institutions and institutions that value human rights and the crucial importance of the lives of the African people, the African citizen? I say that in the way in which our leaders have carried on, that there's a disjuncture between the way in which we respect the sanctity of African life and the urgency that we've applied to implementing all of these high-sounding policies and ideas that represent what was supposed to be a transformed institution that would not be indifferent. I think unless we as Africans value ourselves and say that it is not good enough to have pictures like this of people in poverty and deprivation that characterize the stereotype of Africa continuing even in this period to form what it means to be an African, we are not serious about ourselves as Africans. That when we talk of an Africa rising, that it is not in the interest of external forces outside of Africa, but it should be Africa rising in the interest of Africans. We need to be honest with the fact that people do not have another 20 years to wait for the implementation of all of these fantastic policies and ideas. The people want implementation, the creation of opportunities, jobs, development, peace and security now, today. And it's taken too long. It is not good enough. And we should not, as Africans, be happy with the state of things right now.